So we've worked very hard on making sure people are able to get around the state as efficiently as possible. And it's not always easy. There's certainly parts of the state where it can be more difficult. And in Central Florida, I think you've seen, a lot of challenges, and some of those challenges, have been met by us, and we've got more to come. But we've always wanted to do this. It's always been something that we've done historically in Florida. We've got a good work program. We work efficiently, but I saw a need to do better than what was planned. I mean, there were things that needed to be done now that were not even scheduled to start for another 10 or 15 years. Well, what good is that doing you if you're sitting in traffic for another 15 years on some of this stuff? And so we launched the Moving Florida Forward initiative a few years ago. I think we actually may have been down in Polk County when we did that at one of the other facilities, which was good. And because, quite frankly, I mean, Polk has a lot of issues to have to deal with, especially when you interact with I-4. You can hit traffic at any time. There's a lot of things to go. So we said, okay, we know we've got certain things in the hopper, and that's great. We'll do it. But we want to move some of these other things forward so that we can start things that we know need to be done. So we plowed billions and billions of dollars. We're running big budget surpluses, so we had the ability to do it. And I was like, we are going to do this eventually anyways. If we do it now, even as we've had inflation and things have cost more over the last 5 years, it'll still cost more 10 years from now or 15 years from now. I mean, I don't think that they're all of a sudden, going to go back to like gold-backed currency or anything like that. And so they just kind of inflate the currency. And unfortunately, that's what happens. So these things will be, more expensive. So we might as well get that done. And we were in a great financial position to be able to do it. I announced, I've talked about this a few times, but with the most recent budget that I signed at the end of June for this fiscal year, we have been doing something for really the last 3 or 4 years, I think, which is an accelerated repayment of state debt. So if you take all of Florida's debts that we've had, taxpayer financed debt for 180 years, then just since I've been governor, this fiscal year will bring us to about 50% of that being paid off entirely. A lot of that's ahead of schedule, and the reason why we've done it is because we have the ability to do it, the wherewithal to do it. You can buy and our guys are smart. They're not going to lose money on these transactions. So a lot of times they buy these bonds on the open market at a discount. They retire the bonds. But guess what? If you retire a bond early, then you don't have to pay the interest on that. So we save on interest. So we've saved billions of dollars. So we've retired many billions of dollars in debt. And have cut that, but we've also saved billions of dollars in interest. So we've been happy to do that. We've been happy to do a lot of tax relief. That we don't have income tax. We got rid of business rent tax. We have no sales tax on baby items now. That's a permanent exclusion for Floridians. You already don't have the groceries and the medications tax. We have permanent disaster preparedness supply tax free. Now, we haven't had, knock on wood, anything. They just announced there may be something that can form in the Caribbean, and no one knows if it'll come anywhere close to Florida. But we'll watch it, and we'll see. But if you guys need to do more, you'll have an ability to go buy stuff tax-free. I mean, that's just the way it works. Back to school holiday, permanent, now in law. So all these things are there, which is really, really positive. So this has amounted to billions and billions and billions of dollars of tax relief for Florida families over the years, which we're excited about. Our debt is the lowest per capita in the country, which we're also excited about. But even though we've done big things like Moving Florida Forward, we've done things on education, environment, our budget this year spends less than the budget last year. That budget last year spends less than the budget the year before that. And there's not a lot of other states that can say that. In fact, they're focusing on this New York City mayor's race with this guy running who's like, I mean, honestly, he's a Marxist. And it's just sad that, less than a quarter century after 9/11, that same city could potentially elect this guy. But it is what it is. And but New York City has 8 million people. We have 23.5 million people. Our budget's less than New York City's budget. Yet they obviously have very difficult time making things work now with how things have gone in recent years. New York State, 19.5 million people compared to Florida. We have about 23.5 million people, millions more than them, and our budget's less than half of the size of New York State's budget. So we've shown how it can be done in a way that's very fiscally responsible, conservative, but we're also trying to use the dollars in ways that are going to have maximum impact for you and your family. And I will say, Jared and I announced earlier this year, I think we were probably in Polk when we did that, or Osceola, one of the two, about the new temporary lane on Interstate 4. And that starts where? Champions Gate. Champions Gate down. Horrible place, right? I mean, like, you could get bad traffic. And I will tell, and so, you know, I'm like, I definitely want to do it, and the permanent things are going to be awesome. But, you know, it's like you can do some of this stuff, and is what it is. So they had the video of what it was like, and it was very consistently bad. Then they had the video when they opened, you know, these temporary lanes, and it was like night and day. And, you know, I've had people come up to me and say what a difference it's made. It's been a huge reduction for people who have to commute, and that's just the temporary, but that means a lot to people. And, you know, there's some people that get kind of emotional about it, that they're able to go without having to sit in traffic the way they've done. And, you know, that's the thing about I-4, Champions Gate, all these areas. It isn't just rush hour. I mean, you know, you could be rolling out, you know, like Sunday at 2 o'clock and you're not going, right? So this has made, you know, a really big difference. A lot of those projects in Polk and Osceola and the western part of Orange County have been accelerated through moving Florida forward. So some of the stuff inside Champions Gate, some of the stuff inside Polk County, that's going to be done 5, 10, even 15 years ahead of schedule, depending on what you're talking about. And so it's important. And we're doing it in other parts of the state as well. You know, we've got stuff in the Panhandle. They've got traffic. You know, it used to be people didn't really, it was more of a secret, like the Panhandle, because they've got these really nice beaches. And it started to kind of, word has gotten out over the year, but COVID, it was like, forget it. Everyone was going there. And it's just really crowded now because it's a really nice place. And they've got really bad traffic. And so we're doing stuff there. We're doing stuff. We just announced the I-275 in Pinellas County. It's going to be huge to widen that, kind of like north of where the Tropicana Field is, going into the Howard Franklin Bridge. Going to make a big, big difference. We're doing the 395 project in Miami-Dade County, which is really, really significant. We're doing other things in Southwest Florida, Sarasota, all these places. So it's good, and these are things that needed to be done, and we're accelerating it, and we're delivering them, you know, much ahead of schedule. And so I'm happy with that. As you see, we've got some other stuff here that we're announcing today. So I am pleased to be able to announce additional I-4 expansion we're going to be able to incorporate with the Moving Florida Forward initiative. So this is the 17 miles of the new lanes in Hillsborough County from I-75 to County Line Road. That is going to make a big difference for folks that are traveling in that Hillsborough County section of Interstate 4. And so the lanes will make a difference. It will increase reliable traffic flow, and it will give people a better option to be able to get from the Tampa area into Central Florida or vice versa. And Jared will talk a little bit more about that. But that was not even scheduled to start until, what, 2037? It was supposed to start in 2037, so we're accelerating it by a decade to be able to do that. And that's meaningful for people. The other announcement is we are pleased to be able to announce a new truck parking facility in Polk County at the I-4 and Polk Parkway interchange. You know, obviously we have a lot of freight in Florida moved via trucks. This is going to be 100 additional parking spots for transporters along the I-4 corridor. And it's important. It's a tough job, and you want to be able to have those options. And when they have their own places to park, I've been in some of these gas stations, like these big travel stations, and they get around okay, but it's a little bit difficult. So this will be really, really good. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, we were at the Paris Air Show in June, and they have every aerospace company, aviation in the world goes there. All the defense, all the space stuff, like the Blue Origins of the world, anything you can think of involving any of those industries was there. So we did a lot of meetings, we did a lot of things, and one of the things that was kind of in vogue is this advanced air mobility vertiports. And these things they kind of look like almost like a helicopter, but they don't have the propeller. They just kind of have like little small wings, and they just go straight up and then kind of take you. They run on battery power, and they're designed to go really kind of like inside of 60 miles, would you say? So this would be something that, like, if you wanted to go from like Tampa to Disney, you may just vertiport over there and you can kind of do. Now, this is a new technology, the price is going to have to work itself out for commuters and everything, and they're still in kind of the early stages of doing it, but we are going to be able to have 2 of these vertiports constructed at FDOT's SunTrax testing facility, which is not far from here. So this will be the nation's first advanced air mobility test track, and it will have dedicated airspace, driving innovative research and development for this new technology. And I saw it, I was in it. I think it can transport. You have a pilot. You could transport, I think, like 4 or 5 people, 3 or 4 people, something like that. So it would be more of like a, probably like an air version of like an Uber going to and places. But the idea would be, if they can do this to scale, if they can make it economical, it would take some traffic off the roads, because they could cycle through with travelers on doing that. And so we're just trying to have as many options as possible. But it's more of a short run thing. It's not going to go from Miami to Jacksonville or Miami to Pensacola. It's really within that 60 mile. And in areas where there is traffic, where you want to get from maybe one urban center to the next, it makes a lot of sense. I would imagine they'll be flying these off like southern Manhattan, and flying these, these Wall Street guys different places like that. They'll definitely use it for that. We need it to be a little bit more economical than what they would do, and so we'll see if the technology bears itself out. But if it's something that people could maybe pay a reasonable fare, but then save having to drive and all this stuff, it might be something that's good. But nevertheless, Florida's going to be a place where it'll be a testing ground for this new technology. There was a lot of people that were excited about it at the Paris Air Show. I would say that I was mildly interested and then mildly excited. I mean, I have questions too, but I think what we're doing makes a lot of sense, because to the extent the industry has the ability to innovate, they're going to want to do that in conjunction with SunTrax and what we're being able to do. So all told, we launched this Moving Florida Forward in 2023. We're over $7 billion in added investment. We're already doing normal work program and normal transportation. This is on top of that, and a lot of these projects would not have been started until next decade had we not done that. So that's going to be really good for Floridians. And the total amount, in terms of the number of projects, has been over 20 major infrastructure projects that have been expedited years ahead of schedule. Now, usually it's the opposite. They're way behind schedule on everything. In Florida, we want to get ahead of the game, and so that's what we're doing. I mentioned the I-275 express lanes in Pinellas. I mentioned the Golden Glades Interstate redesign in Miami-Dade. This Fruitville, if you guys have ever been to the Sarasota area, they're doing a diverging diamond. People will ask me, why don't they do this? They study all these things in terms of traffic patterns. And so this diverging diamond really does work. It looks a little bit different, but they study it and it works. It's the same way when hurricanes happen, they don't do contraflow where they have everyone go one way. because it's proven not to work. I mean, it sounds good. Oh, yeah, just everyone go north out of 75. Well, we got to bring in emergency vehicles. We got to bring in the utility workers. We got to bring in other stuff. So you're going to need to do it. So the contraflow doesn't work. And so they do shoulder use and they expand lanes. So all this stuff is tested, and that diverging diamond has been tested. I mentioned the Panhandle, US 98, and widening in Bay County. They need that, very busy road. US 301 realignment in Sumter County. The Villages, very, very growing part of the state of Florida. And then obviously the congestion relief lanes here in Central Florida, which is really, really good. So these are all really significant spots around the state. You know, we could have just kept doing what we were doing and say, oh yeah, it's in the hopper, we got to get through these others, and then just washed our hands of it. But we want action now. So we've been able to deliver that, and I'm really excited about these new announcements here today. So with that, I will let our FDOT Secretary, Jared, say some stuff.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for your leadership. And I tell you, I still remember that one of those first conversations. I'm sitting there looking at my boss, and he says, "You're the transportation guy. Congestion is horrible. What are you going to do about it?" And, you know, I definitely committed. I said, we can come up with a plan, Governor. It's just going to take resources. And he brought the leadership and, you know, and the willpower to bring general revenue surplus to transportation, understanding the impact that it has on the quality of life, on Florida residents, and really the return on investment. Every dollar we invest in transportation returns $4.26 to the local economy, creates jobs. So this really, truly is a good use of government. Now, the pressure has been on. We are continuously being asked by the governor, go faster, cut through red tape, use innovation, go faster. Again, go faster. We hear it many times. And so, you know, ever since we launched the Moving Florida Forward initiative, we've been advancing those 20 projects. Again, we layered $7 billion of investment on top of an already historic, nearly $15 billion annual program. And so this has been a very, very heavy lift, but it's one we're proud to carry out. Our team's been working very hard. We've had a lot of support from the local communities. And really the innovation with the congestion relief lanes on I-4, we built this temporary lane. People have been waiting 15, 20 years for just a little bit of relief. And we came up with an innovative solution. Let's build a temporary lane and maintain it throughout the whole duration of a 10-year construction project. And it literally cut travel times in half. It has been an emotional experience. Some would say it's a spiritual experience. And I drive it often. It really, truly has helped. And so we've been continuing to innovate, looking at I-4 in the Tampa region, coming from I-75 up through Plant City, all the way to the Polk County line, another heavily, heavily congested area. Every day it's a parking lot. And so we've been working on a plan for a project for the last 15 years, but that plan is very, very expensive. And so the governor asked us to innovate, look at different ways to do things. And so we came up with an innovative concept to pull some of those improvements out, advance them over 10 years ahead of schedule, and build a phase of the project that actually fits within the existing right-of-way. And so we're going to be able to do this for $500 million, and we're going to be able to do it in fall of calendar year 27, and before it was 2037, 2038 before you would have seen anything. And we're really excited. This is going to bring a lot of congestion relief to the area. And it's really a great example of the governor's leadership in continuing to push us to be innovative and efficient and cut through that red tape. Also with the truck parking at I-4 and Polk Parkway, so this is part of a bigger initiative. We actually have an initiative underway right now to bring over 1,400 truck parking spots to the I-4 corridor as a whole. The governor has been laser focused on keeping our supply chain healthy, making sure that, you know, we can be resilient and sustainable through any challenges that are thrown our way. We've made a lot of investment in our supply chain through the governor's leadership, and this is just another example. So we're going to be adding another 100 sites here at I-4 and Polk Parkway. It's going to have a big impact on the supply chain. And with advanced air mobility, you heard the governor. We were at the Paris Air Show. We saw all of the prototypes. Right now, they're on schedule to get approval of the vehicles from the feds sometime in calendar year 2026. What we want to do in Florida is very simple. This is going to be a private mode. It's going to be offered by private operators. private owners of these aircraft. But it is essentially the age of flying cars. How can we support the private sector being successful? Speed to market. You cut through the red tape, you give them the ability to start operating and operating quickly and become profitable, and this will be a new opportunity for Florida residents. So this is our goal. We're expanding. This is a big announcement. We're expanding our state-of-the-art testing facility at SunTrax to include vertiports and what we're calling an aerial test track. You get up in the air, it becomes multi-dimensional, and these vendors, these operators, these manufacturers need a place to test. It helps them with speed to market. And hopefully as soon as those vehicles are approved, Florida, we hope and intend, Florida will be the first place that they start flying, and it will and can have an impact on I-4 if they're successful. So we're really excited about that. Happy that Governor DeSantis is supporting all of these infrastructure initiatives, and really thankful for his leadership. Thank you, Governor.
So we'll see what the future holds with some of these new technologies. I mean, it was interesting to be there. I think that they've got some work to do to make sure that it's economical for people. But, the future may bring some of that. I mean, I remember as a kid, the Jetsons, I thought that would happen someday. I haven't quite seen it yet, so we'll see what happens. And then I'll just finally just say, we're into the full swing here in October, football season. We got the best record in the NFL with the Bucs, and you have USF. They have a chance to make the college playoff. If they just win out, they've got a couple, I know they play Navy, a couple tough games relative, but the reality is they've already done a good job. So I think you can see that too. So I think it's an exciting time of year, and we'll just keep doing our part to get the job done, all these things. Okay, does anyone got any questions?
Directed FDOT to do a study of expanding I-4 in Polk County from 27 going toward Hillsborough County. Can you say anything about the plans for that?
Do you remember that bill? Yeah, come on.
Yeah, thank you. So the question was about a study from past session that the legislature asked FDOT to look at I-4. We're moving beyond studies. We're here announcing, funding yet another section of I-4 and advancing it by at least 10 years. This study was with regard to public-private partnerships, and we're still going to be looking at that as a tool in the toolbox. But in the meantime, we're going to continue moving I-4 projects forward.
And it will make a difference. Okay, thanks, everybody. God bless. Have a good one. Take care.
At a press briefing focused on transportation improvements, Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican Florida, outlined major new initiatives to relieve congestion along Florida's I-4 corridor and accelerate infrastructure projects across the state. Standing alongside state transportation officials, DeSantis highlighted Florida's ongoing commitment to efficiency, innovation, and fiscal discipline through his Moving Florida Forward initiative. The governor emphasized that the state's goal is to address pressing traffic and infrastructure needs now, rather than waiting a decade or more for long-term projects to begin. DeSantis announced the acceleration of the I-4 expansion in Hillsborough County, which adds 17 miles of new lanes between I-75 and County Line Road. The project was originally scheduled to begin in 2037, but will now start roughly 10 years earlier. The improvement, he said, will dramatically ease congestion for commuters traveling between the Tampa Bay area and Central Florida. He also unveiled plans for a new truck parking facility at the I-4 and Polk Parkway interchange. The site will provide 100 additional parking spaces for commercial transporters, supporting the state's freight industry and improving safety along one of Florida's busiest freight routes. DeSantis noted that the project is part of a broader plan to add more than 1,400 truck parking spaces along the I-4 corridor. In one of the most forward-looking announcements, DeSantis revealed that Florida will host the nation's first advanced air mobility test site, a facility designed to support the development of electric vertical takeoff aircraft, often described as flying cars. 2 vertiports will be constructed at FDOT's SunTrax Testing Center, providing a research and testing hub for emerging aviation technology. Throughout his remarks, the governor pointed to Florida's strong financial standing and debt reduction efforts, noting that the state has already paid off about half of its taxpayer-financed debt, much of it ahead of schedule. He emphasized that Florida's per capita debt remains the lowest in the nation, even as the state continues to expand infrastructure and deliver tax relief to families. DeSantis also contrasted Florida's efficient governance with that of high-tax states like New York, pointing out that despite having millions more residents, Florida's budget remains less than half the size of New York's. FDOT Secretary Jared Perdue praised the governor's leadership, crediting his Go Faster directive for driving innovation and cutting through bureaucratic red tape. He cited examples such as temporary congestion relief lanes on I-4, which have already reduced travel times by half for many drivers. The Moving Florida Forward program, launched in 2023, represents more than $7 billion in additional investment on top of Florida's existing $15 billion annual transportation budget. It has allowed more than 20 major projects to begin years ahead of schedule, targeting traffic relief in key regions like Central Florida, Tampa Bay, Miami-Dade, and the Panhandle. DeSantis closed by reaffirming his administration's focus on delivering results for Florida residents, saying that tackling congestion and building smarter infrastructure will improve quality of life and strengthen the state's growing economy.